You look at two quotes for a new screen enclosure. One comes in at $8,000, the other at $18,000. But within 2 years, that cheaper option can look exactly like this. It forces a difficult question. Is the higher bid a luxury markup, or does that low quote carry hidden structural debt you'll be paying off later? Low-cost builders sell an affordable illusion. They deliver a cage that looks identical on day one by cutting costs in areas the homeowner rarely checks. Physics doesn't care about a budget. Florida's environment subjects these structures to intense UV radiation, corrosive salt air, and wind loads pushing 150 miles per hour. We are evaluating these bids using the specific data points and material physics used by independent engineers. We're going to audit these quotes by examining building codes, material fatigue, and the specific failure points that allow contractors to shave thousands off their initial price. This graph tracks the divergence. While the low bid looks attractive on day one, the cost curve shifts once the first major repair and maintenance cycles begin. Let's start with the first major sign of a cheap build, the phenomenon industry professionals call the silent killer. Florida's constant moisture cycles and high humidity act as a continuous stress test on every inch of your enclosure. This brings us to sign number 1, budget fastener selection. To lower their bid, a budget contractor will assemble your aluminum frame using standard zinc-coated steel screws without isolation barriers. Mixing these dissimilar metals in a damp environment triggers an electrochemical reaction. The steel rusts, spreads, and eventually eats away at the structural connection. You will often see rust streaks and joint weakening within the first 6 to 12 months. Saving a small amount on hardware up front leads directly to the failure of these structural joints. This blueprint identifies the professional baseline. A resilient joint requires ceramic-coated 316 marine-grade stainless steel fasteners, sealed with polymer isolation caps. Looking at the bottom of the diagram, we see sign number 2 of a cheap build, the aluminum profile skeleton. To underbid the competition, some builders spec the absolute minimum allowed wall thickness, dropping down to 0.040 inches. An undersized skeleton lacks the necessary rigidity to handle severe wind loads. You receive a cage that looks fine initially, but it will wobble, creak under stress, and remain vulnerable to collapse during moderate storms. When you combine weak fasteners with thin aluminum, catastrophic failure becomes a mathematical certainty once the wind speeds rise. Next is sign number 3, skipping site-specific engineering and official permits. Some contractors bypass the engineering stamp process to save on time and administrative fees. Without site-specific calculations, the structure defaults to the absolute minimum requirements of the Florida Building Code. That minimum code contains a specific requirement. The homeowner must climb a ladder and manually cut out their screen panels when winds reach 75 miles per hour. Bypassing the engineering fees forfeits the stay-in-place structural guarantee. You risk a total loss of the enclosure in a Category 1 storm unless you dismantle it yourself. Sign number 4 is the quality of the mesh and spline. Budget quotes rely on standard fiberglass mesh, or cheap imported screens heavily laden with crushed rock fillers. Year-round UV exposure causes that fiberglass to become brittle. Within 3 years, it can lose up to 75% of its original burst strength. Saving money on standard mesh guarantees that normal afternoon thunderstorms will eventually tear the screen, forcing a complete rescreening job. Professional installations typically optimize for advanced vinyl-coated polyester, such as Superscreen. Polyester screens have an inherent burst strength of over 180 pounds, providing a lifespan that often exceeds 10 years. The choice is between a structure that requires manual disassembly before a storm and one engineered to withstand the climate without intervention. Finally, sign number 5, the daily hardware. Examine the entry points. Cheap bids utilize budget pneumatic door closers and standard hinges that are not rated for a marine environment. The combination of salt air and daily use causes these parts to fail quickly. These small savings result in sagging doors that fail to latch, breaking your insect barrier. Zooming out, the 10-year financial assessment reveals the real cost of the investment. For a forever home, the lowest initial bid is often the most expensive choice possible over the life of the structure. To properly protect your home, you must systematically audit these competing bids. Rule 1. Demand verifiable proof of an active license and insurance. Rule 2. Require an itemized material specification sheet that explicitly lists the grade of fasteners and the mesh type. Rule 3. Insist on a site-specific engineering stamp that guarantees a stay-in-place wind rating. An engineered, stay-in-place structure provides a level of resilience that remains structural without the need for manual intervention. Don't gamble with your home's structural integrity. Follow the link in the description for a high-quality consultation from the experts at Screen Factory Florida.